We're going to have to move on to the next segment of the program right now. And we have another pre-taped interview with one of the conference speakers, John Hagel. And John Hagel works at the big management consulting firm of Deloitte, where he's director of the Center for the Edge, which researches emerging business opportunities. So let's go ahead and roll that tape. Now you're involved with TEDwomen, and I know that your work has something to do with increasing opportunities for women. How does that work out at Center for the Edge?
Well, it's a byproduct of some of the work we've been doing around trying to understand the longer-term changes that are occurring in the business landscape. One of the things that we did recently was just try to ask the most basic question of how are companies doing? Not just this quarter, not just this year, but over a long period of time. And what we found when we looked at all public companies in the United States since 1965, if you look at it in terms of return on assets as a measure of financial performance, return on assets has collapsed over that time period. It's now 75% lower than it was in 1965. What we're finding is the model of business that we had in the 20th century, which was really what we would call focused on knowledge stocks. In other words, the key to building a company was you had to develop some proprietary knowledge. You had to protect that knowledge, make sure nobody else could get access to it, and then you had to efficiently extract the knowledge and deliver it to the marketplace, the value from that knowledge.
Now, where do women figure in all of this? Because I know your work centers on women a lot.
Yeah.
Are there some business models that are more amenable to women than others?
Well, it gets to this notion of knowledge flows, and one of the things we've discovered as we've gone into this is that the knowledge that's most valuable actually is not data that kind of flows through the internet. It's what we call tacit knowledge, knowledge that we each have in our heads that are a result of recent experience that we haven't even processed ourselves. We have a very hard time expressing it to ourselves, much less expressing it to somebody else. That knowledge doesn't flow unless there are trust-based relationships. And the process of building trust-based relationships involves things like expressing vulnerability.
That was John Hagel, director of the Center for the Edge at the big consulting firm of Deloitte. Tatyana, John Hagel spoke about the need for expressing vulnerability as a good business strategy. Do you think that's the direction business is heading in today?
With everything that's happening in today's economy, with the changes, with all the social media channels playing the increasing role in how people communicate and how brands and companies communicate with people, we realize that people trust people. People don't trust brands.
So personal relationships have to be at the core of business?
And if you look at the nature of how people trust people, I wouldn't trust you if I don't know you, right? So I want to know what Marty likes to eat for breakfast.
And if you don't know me, you might not trust me either, but that's another story.
I
won't go into that.
But the thing is, I would feel much more comfortable dealing with you if I know a little bit more. Do you have a dog? If your kid got sick, or where you went on vacation. I don't want to know every single move you're doing during the day, but I really want to know a little bit more about what you read, what you care about, and then this will allow me to build more trusted business relationships.
Now, doesn't all the social networking where everything is done on the internet make that harder because you have relationships with people you've never even met in person?
And that's a challenge because some people can misrepresent on who they are and what they do. But at the same time, I can give you a personal example. I met amazing people and built strong relationships that went from virtual world into the real one. Like yesterday, we had this big conference on innovation, and one of the speakers on the panel was CTO of HP, Susie Wee. I met her on Twitter. We built that relationship, and I realized how amazing person she is, not just as technologist, being a CTO, women CTO at HP, but also I know she plays hockey, and she went to Hawaii to her parents' anniversary, and I know so much, and we had such a nice dialogue over Twitter before we actually met and built business relationship.
So social networking is playing an increasingly important role. And I understand that as a result of the conference, a lot of people sent Twitter messages giving their feedback. In fact, I think we have a couple of Twitter messages that we're going to flash up on the screen. How would you characterize the volume of feedback or the quality of that feedback?
We were able to track just one hashtag, and it was easy. People have used different hashtags if you know Twitter terminology. But even based on what we've seen with hashtag TEDxBayArea, there were over almost 2,000 tweets that we traced without even retweets. So that generated a lot of feedback on some ideas, on some talks. And guess what? People who use the same hashtag, they kind of formed a community. And that was our goal. A, to inspire people. B, to connect them.
So is this conference going to be an ongoing thing? Are you going to have another one?
Absolutely. The demand was amazing. When I just initially mentioned on Twitter that I'm planning on producing this event, and I just set up a simple online form just to gauge the demand. Within a day, without having an agenda or anything else, I had within a day over 100 people signing up. So that told me, based on like sample marketing research, that there is a huge demand for this type of events. So we definitely...
Now, is this mostly about networking to advance people in the technology sector? Because we are in Silicon Valley. Most of these people have roots in the technology field. Is there the idea of technology and innovation? Was that an important part of the whole conference?
I would say, short answer, no. Because I'm a woman, I'm a woman technologist, came from technology, strong technology background. But my idea was to show the diversity of women, diversity in what they do, in age, in specialties, in everything. So we had amazing cook who was on Iron Chef, and we had a student from Stanford University, and we had an educator. And I think that when you bring women, not just in technology, but in different fields with the startups, and they talk about what they do within the field they've chosen to be in, it inspires and triggers cross-functional inspiration among a variety of different women. Because there was a strong perception, if you're in a valley, you're women, you're in technology, and that has been highlighted in many different ways. And I wanted, and we all as a team wanted to show that you can be a cook and inspire people and be passionate about what you do. And if you're passionate about what you do, no matter who you are, you can inspire others.
Okay, very good. We need to move along to the next segment of our program. We have one more pre-taped interview, and this one is with Vivek Wadhwa, who is a senior research associate at the Labor and Work-Life program at Harvard Law School. So let's go ahead and roll that tape.